The Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors: Woodland Stud, Brecon Farms, New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred, Stonewall Stud, the clubs Alexandra Park, Cambridge, Addington and Ashburton, Garrard's Horse and Hound, and IRT. It's your horse and our passion. Hi everyone, welcome into another edition of Your Box Seat. Yes, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. A big thank you to them once again. Michael Guerin, outstanding night Friday night, Alexandra Park. Very good Ashburton as well, I enjoyed that. Sunday, Invercargill, we'll get a chance to review some of the big races. But yeah, racing at Alexandra Park was certainly top notch.
Sure was, Greg. Big hi to you, big hi to everybody watching us around New Zealand and of course our friends in Australia as we count down to the Jewels. A lot of the results on Friday night, Greg, were exactly the same results at group level from the week before. But I tell you what I did have this feeling of when I was standing there for the presentations in front of the big stand at Alexandra Park. How lucky we are. It's easy to forget about the getting involved in the racing. How lucky we are to be racing. This time last year, no racing. This time last year, no Southern Supremacy. This time last year, no Rowe Cup and no Taylor Mile. Greg, I was standing there thinking, we're lucky to have these meetings and all these wonderful horses. We're going to try and take the conversations about those wins on Friday night in the next hour or so and extend them out to what they mean for the rest of the season, or even, Greg, in one case, for the Horse of the Year voting.
Yeah, exactly. Right, let's get straight into it, Michael. With Woodlands, with What the Hill, it is the Rowe Cup, another terrific edition of it, and this sensational trotter, Sunday Sun, 7 Group 1s he has now won, and this is how he did it in one of our great trotting races.
Majestic Man went for a gallop. Sunday Sun eases away 2-3, Bolt for Brilliance, Temporale, Oscar Bonavina. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching a very special trotter. He goes back to back in the Rowe Cup. Sunday Sun, Bolt for Brilliance second, Temporale third, Majestic Man, he's rattled home for fourth.
Well, Robert, I'm not sure this horse has gone any better.
No, it hasn't really, Mick, but you know, once again, he got to the front and it makes it hard for other drivers. What do? And Johnny got away with some pretty cheap quarters, and then of course he trots it home in 55 and jogging. It really wouldn't have mattered what they did. They sort of had to go for second and third, and once he got that nice lead.
I suppose he's earned that respect over a long period of time now.
Well, he has now because he's a solid trotter, and when he's solid, he's pretty foolproof, you know, and he's proved that in the past. He's very hard to get past when he's really right. And look, he does love his way of going. He's proved that he's won back-to-back Anzac Cups and Rowe Cups, and you know, it takes a pretty special horse to do that.
You've had some great horses, not so many great trotters just yet, but you've had Master Musician, of course, and Mainland Banner. Does he start to trot his way into the conversation alongside the best horses you've had?
Oh, absolutely, he does really, because you know, he's in top echelon, and there are some great trotters out there. You know, you got Temporale and Bolt for Brilliance, and right across the board there's been Oscar Bonavina and some really good trotters. So you sort of, it's hard to mark horses over an era. You know, Mainland Banner raced against some good horses, Master raced against probably the best of all time. But this horse is raced against some pretty special trotters, and he's really put them to sleep pretty easily, and he's just got this wonderful stamina as well as speed.
He's nearly won $750,000, Michael. He completely dominated that field. Some good runs in behind. Temporale, previous winner, obviously made a top 3 for him. Majestic Man cost himself. I spoke to Phil Williamson about that. He said he's a funny horse. He runs in one way and out the other, and you're never quite sure what he's going to do. He was making a lot of ground towards the end, but ultimately he was simply just too good again. He became the 12th horse to be a multiple winner of the Rowe Cup, and he sits up there now, doesn't he?
He does, Greg. First of all, the race itself wasn't very interesting. Obviously, he got the lead, but that's what winning does for you. It gets you that respect, and we talk about it all the time in harness racing. If you keep winning, you get the respect to dominate a race like that, and for a Majestic Man to hand up to you. So he's trotting faultlessly, very squarely. He's obviously strengthened up. He's not galloping after the line, or obviously in his races, that much anymore. So massive training effort from Robert, from Craig Edmonds, who's been his caretaker trainer, and obviously John, who does so much work with the horse. We'll get back to him in a second. Bolt for Brilliance, really good. If ever you've seen a horse, Greg, who's going to win a Dominion or a Rowe Cup, it is Bolt for Brilliance.
Yep.
Temporale, well driven by Tony Cameron, went straight to the marker pegs, which is where he needed to be, didn't spend any extra energy, and Majestic Man, we saw the gallop. He's a quirky horse, didn't like the thought of trying to get into the passing lane, not that it mattered too much. Oscar Bonavina average. Haven't seen a horse not so much fall from grace, Greg, but fall down the pecking order from being our top trotter 18 months ago, or we thought he was going to be the top trotter, to 6th or 7th. But back to the winner. Interesting question raised last week by Garrick Knott on Twitter, which I must admit I hadn't thought of, Greg.
Yep.
I just sort of thought I was going to vote for Self Assured for Horse of the Year because he won the Easter Cup, won the New Zealand Cup, won a few other races in between. But the New Zealand Cup carries so much weight. I suppose now, when the voting forms come out for harness race in New Zealand, I might double take. I might think, where does Sunday Sun sit against that? Particularly because the trotters are so good. Like Majestic Man completely dominated the Australians to the point that maybe if he was better than the Aussies and this horse is way better than him, is he a Horse of the Year? I'm not sure about that, Greg. I think all the racing's done for those two horses.
Yep.
What about for you? You get a vote. So if you had to vote right now on the box seat while everybody's watching, who would you vote for?
It's in the mix. He's definitely in the mix. It's a close photo, isn't it? When you really analyse it, he's been the absolute best. Yes, he got beaten in those couple of runs at Addington, but he was on his way back up, and his two main goals, he won both of those. I was also looking at his record, Michael. 9 times he's either broken or set and maintains a New Zealand record. So, yeah, that's an incredible record. Admittedly, that's the all-comers and 4-year-old and older, which for me is the same thing. I know,
of course it is.
Different
Yeah,
categories.
I agree. Look, what I would like to see him do, Greg, is wind
I didn't
up
answer
over
your
a
question either, by the way.
Who are you going to vote for then?
At this stage, it was self-assured, but I'm going to have to sit down and have another think about that. Yeah, I think Garrick raises a really good point there.
I would like to see this horse wind up over a mile. Like I know he's raced over a mile, but he's been tended to be quietly driven over a mile.
Yeah.
I reckon he would go 52 and change because he loves the stamina running. He would need to be quicker off the gate and get on the back of a Majestic Man or get close enough to him for the first 800. But I think he could rewrite the record book here around Ashburton in that flying mile, which they probably won't go to.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a wonderful horse. They've done a great job with him. Really good bunch of horses, these trotters. I think in our pacing ranks at the moment, and I think it's going to be replenished,
Yeah.
it's been a mixed crop, and there's been a few things coming and going out of it.
Yep.
The trotting ranks are a bunch of horses I just really like.
Yeah, it's great. It's great racing, and he's dominated and deserves his mantle as Trotter of the Year. Whether he gets the other title, we will wait and see. Brecon Farms, they bring us our trotting races each and every week. They got behind the Northern Derby, and this was a stirring battle up the straight. He was going for 7 in a row, 5 wise men. Get Aaron White to bring him home and just see how close the filly got to him in the end.
5 wise men, time up the hill, comes strongly at the 100. 5 wise men, time up the hill, the filly is coming strongly. 5 wise men, time up the hill, lunges hard. 5 wise men, a nose. 5 wise men, time up the hill. Son of Patrick, I believe that was the way they finished in the New Zealand Derby.
Well, Amy, he got the Group 1 again, but a few nervous times in the last 100.
Yeah, definitely. You know, after the line, Dad and I actually congratulated the wards behind us. We thought we had got beat, so it was a bad angle. But, you know, thrilled for the horse. He really deserved that and his owners.
Did you get a chance to talk to John about whether he was waiting for the other horse or he just had a night where he wasn't quite as sharp as last week?
Yeah, no, I think in front he's not as good as coming off from behind them. He's still learning. He's a young trotter. So, you know, Johnny actually thought he was beat as well. I think when he can get that hood off his ears, you'll see another gear, but that's probably next season.
I know you guys, even though you're looking forward to the Jewels, can't wait to give this horse a big long break.
Yeah, he's a big horse and he deserves a spell. You know, he's going to fill into his frame, and I think next season you'll see a better trotter again.
We hear from you so often about your partner Tim winning big races, and we see how supportive you are there, and we see Craig once in a while. You see Dad on television. It must be nice to be here winning these Group 1 races for yourself. I know it's a family affair, but it must be very satisfying.
Definitely, you know, it's a dream come true, especially with the family and, you know, everyone at home and at the Woodend Beach stable, they all put their plate, all help out, so it's great.
Ivan McNichol, his owner, was suggesting that maybe Earl of Mott was the best horse he's had. I think this one's catching up pretty quick.
Yeah, he probably might have been a bit better if I hadn't been driving him the start of his career, but, you know, this fella, yeah, he's something special.
Yeah, special for the Edmonds family. He didn't get there by much, Michael, but he's been the benchmark all season, joins that illustrious group to have won both derbies now. He's $1.40 to win the Harness Jewels. Don't know if I'd be jumping into that round Cambridge pre-barrier draw at this stage. Time up the hill. Exceptional run from her. Michael Ward often saying it's tough for the fillies having to race the boys, but she's stood up in both of those derbies. She's a terrific trotting filly and has got a massive future, not only on the track but off it as well by the time she becomes a mum. Son of Patrick was really good. Disappointment out of the race, obviously Leaf Stride getting it wrong at the start. A couple of things happened to Phil Williamson over the weekend. Speaking to him yesterday, he thought he might have run over a cat or something because Leaf Stride in the right spot would have got pretty close, I think, to Five Wise Men as well.
Yeah, as we both know, half the battle's trotting all the way. Three of the other contenders galloped. With Five Wise Men, I just don't think he was at his best. I think whether it's the fact he's a big horse and he's starting to get tired and he needs to freshen up, as Amy said, maybe not concentrating very well in front. He still puts in the odd long hop in behind. Greg, there's so much there which is just him needing to learn, and he'll, you would think, be a significantly better horse in a year's time. We say that about lots of horses, doesn't always come true, but he would seem to be that type of horse. But that's also, try not to denigrate what the second horse did. She's run second in 2 derbies and she's gone super, so she might be a really good filly. I still get the feeling, Greg, with this crop that they're all over the shop, even out of my way at Addington the other day.
Yep.
I think the fact they all had to come up in the spring and race at a time when most of the 3-year-olds aren't racing because they were racing in 2-year-old races. I think that's really sort of shaken the crop up and almost turned them upside down. A lot of horses have come back for the Handball Tony and they haven't had as long a break as usual. It just feels like a weird year. Now, Five Wise Men's a very good horse. He would be the best of this crop, regardless of whether they ran 100 races or 4 races.
Yep.
But I just think, Greg, I wouldn't be surprised if these horses change a lot in a year's time. He'll be the best of them, I think. But there's enough there for people who own Son of Patrick's and own Time Up the Hill and even own the Mexicanas and the Leaf Strides to think, hey, I've probably got a pretty good horse here.
Yep.
I've just had a tricky season.
Yeah, no question. $1.40 Five Wise Men, $7 Time Up the Hill, Leaf Stride $8, Son of Patrick $11, Out of My Way $15. So that's the market for the Harness Jewels for the 3-year-old Ruby. We'll leave that behind and move on to one of the great 4-year-old races of the season, the Dawson Harford and Partners. This is the New Zealand Messenger Championship. Copy that in the Jewels colours in front. Maurice McKendry, he's got a great record in this race, and he grabbed another one with this Ray Green Star Pacer.
Amazing Dream, copy that, 75 to go, Bad to the Bone, Amazing Dream, copy that, the Magic Man, Maurice McKendry, perfectly rates this 4-year-old to the Messenger Championship win. Second over was Bad to the Bone, and third Amazing Dream, then Steal the Show, South Coast Arden.
Well, Morris, it's lovely when you've got the gate speed and the respect to get the lead and just stay there.
Yeah, he was just super tonight. I think he was actually better tonight than he was the other night, first time he'd raced for a while the other night, and yeah, he was super tonight, yeah.
He came home in 54.2, Morris, but you didn't seem to really give him his head to the top of the straight. So was there a 53 and a half there somewhere in him?
Yeah, I would say so. He's pretty quick, but he's just got stronger as the race went on, and yeah, he's just incredible. Really, he's just getting better, I think. Yeah.
Is he a horse who's going to develop into a New Zealand and Auckland Cup horse, or is he a horse who's always going to be slightly better as a sprinter?
Well, I don't think so. I think you look at his Auckland Cup run when he over-raced outside that, then when he was still fighting out the finish. So it was a huge run. And tonight, like the 2700 in Warri, he finished off pretty good, didn't he? He's right up there, isn't he? Very good horse.
It's been a while since you've had the opportunity to drive him off the speed, Morris, and let him have one run at them, because often he draws well in leads, or, as he was said in the Auckland Cup, he was sitting parked. How do you think he would go sitting off the speed, 3 or 4 back on the outside?
Oh, I think he'd be super. If they're rolling along a bit, that wouldn't worry him, he can just roll the sections. So, yeah. No, he's a racehorse,
Been a while, Macca, since you've been to Australia to drive a horse. This horse might be going to Queensland. Are you going to put your hand up for the job?
I don't know. COVID's up, Mick. We've got to be careful with these old fellas, you know.
on the subject of old fellas, I see you got a couple of pairs of goggles on here, Macca. What's going on? Were you a bit worried about the track last week? You got double goggled.
I was trying to see.
It seems a bit better out there tonight.
Yeah, it does. A lot better tonight. So, no, it was a lot more pleasant. Yeah.
Who was the last horse? I know you're not going to answer this question, but I'm going to ask it for the box seat viewers. Who was the last horse you drove as good as Copy That?
Yeah, well, Sir Lincoln was a very fast horse, you know, and he won the Auckland Cup here in 3:19, run a good half and that. But, yeah, this fella's probably, you'd say he'd be better. But, yeah, they were good in their era, you know, like, but, yeah, no, this one's good to drive. I don't think he's too difficult.
Great work, Michael. You got a lot out of Maurice McHenry. He's a hard man to interview sometimes. 54-2, he ripped home and Copy That, and Ray's done a great job with him, peaked him at the right time, and he just needs to peak him again in the duels. And yeah, he's had a great season, hasn't he?
He sure has. I was actually staggered Macca answered that question. When I was asking him, I thought he's going to say, I don't know. And then when he said Sir Lincoln, I was like, oh, that's good. And then he's got out and said that Copy That's better than Sir Lincoln. Sir Lincoln won a Jules at Cambridge, obviously, and won an Auckland Cup. I still get the feeling with his horse, Greg, and by no means am I denigrating him by saying it. That's the second time I've used that word today.
Yeah, notice that.
I think he's going to be a better miler, short distance horse, only because he's so good at it. It just suits him so well. And that's not to say he couldn't win an Auckland Cup, because I think Sir Lincoln was a better sprinter than a stayer.
Yeah.
I think he can win almost any race when he's in front. When he's been in front this season, Ashburton Flying Stakes beat Self Assured and Spankin. Cambridge Flying Mile beat Self Assured. Those two races there, both times he led, beat Amazing Dream in both of them. So he's beat the New Zealand Cup winners twice and the Auckland Cup winner when he gets in front of them. Yep. What's going to be interesting is to see what happens when he doesn't lead in races, because when you go back over this season, when he hasn't led in races, vastly different results. I'm not saying it's because he can't do it. I just think, Greg, he's so good at leading and rolling that he's almost unbeatable in front. Now, you would think round Cambridge he draws better than the favourites. He'll start $1.10, $1.20, whatever. If he draws second line, really interesting test for him. And then again, Albion Park, because we're going to see later in the show Expensive Ego, who ran second in the Miracle Mile. I put to Luke McCarthy this week, I said, how would you go against Copy That? He said, I don't think I could sit parked outside him and beat him. But I don't think he could sit parked outside me either. So the two best 4-year-olds in Australasia, along with Amazing Dream, who could be there as well. So really interesting, Greg, about where we see the best of this horse. But I genuinely think leading, I don't think there's a horse in Australasia could sit parked outside him and beat him. In saying that, Bad for the Bone has done a massive job the last 2 weeks trying.
Yeah.
I think he's a genuine open class horse. Amazing Dream just continues to confuse me. Not because she's not very good, because I can never work out when she's going to win and when she's not, Greg. She's just an amazingly good staying mare, but she can, I think, be beaten for speed in races where there's not mid-race pressure.
He's $1.40 to win his duel, as Copy That. Bad to the Bone. Look, he's come back from Australia, a far better horse. He's brave again. You can get $4.80 about him. Pembroke Playboy, we'll see later on, $5.50. They dominate.
Here's the question for you,
the
Greg.
4-year-old section. Yep.
If Bad for the Bone draws barrier 2 and leads in the duels, can Copy That sit parked or come around him and beat him?
Not on the last two performances. I don't think so.
That's what I think too.
Yep, I don't think so. But, gee, it'd be a great old battle, and what a day it's going to be on the 6th of June. Can't wait to get to Cambridge Raceway, and the team doing such a great job there. And don't forget, if you haven't booked your tickets, you could be in big trouble because they are selling out. We need to go to the Sires Stakes, and True Fantasy did what not too many can do. Come from the outside of the second row over the short course at Alexandra Park. This one with Magnus Benroe. Here she is storming home in that Jules jacket once again.
Philly Montana Glory, True Fantasy's rocketing home down the outside. Suntan, True Fantasy in the Jules jacket. Suntan, True Fantasy. Boy, what a win that has been. True Fantasy over Suntan. Montana Glory's been huge in third as well.
Well, now that was a hell of a win.
Yeah, she's very good. Mick, I think probably we just didn't really realise how good she was. She's such a laid-back betters, always just does what she has to, always one slipping under the radar at home. But I think she's just got a wonderful attitude and a great will to win.
That real betters thing where their first start's good, then they get better and better and better, excuse the pun.
Oh, definitely, yeah. No, she was like that. The first run was good, second run was really good. And then just, you saw last week in the mud there, she sort of probably shouldn't maybe have picked them up, but she did. And then tonight she probably had no right, but she went better again. So Mark worked her during the week and he just thought she'd be very hard to beat.
Okay, a different type of racing is about a month away around the corner, which is the Jewels at Cambridge. You need gate speed for that type of racing, usually. Is she going to be the type of filly who, once you ask her for that, she may find it?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I've got no doubt she's got push-button speed. Probably she ran off the gate very nice her second start, but just sort of went a little bit rocky, a bit green, but she was still learning. But she's a lot sharper, better horse now, and I'm sure when the time comes, if we want speed, she'll have it.
Okay, you drove her and Mark drove Suntan. Is that the way it stays?
Yeah, well, I was probably always going to drive True Fantasy. Just last week, there was no point all of us being here. So, Mark was up here anyway, so he drove her and I went home and drove the ones Thursday down there. So, yeah, it just worked out that way. It was just for that week. Hey, if Mark wants to drive her, he can. We don't ever argue about it.
$70,000 purchase by Jean Feast. She is the best at this stage, Michael. An outstanding performance to beat Suntan 4 wide from about the 600 metre mark. She's quite exceptional, I think.
Yeah, the last 2 weeks, Greg, she's just gone to a whole new level. To come from behind those horses twice and beat them, not just beat them with a bit of luck, but conclusively 3, 4, 5 wide around the last bend and going away from them at the line. She's a really good filly. I think she's the best of the crop by a length or two now. What I love seeing with these big fields, Greg, for these fillies. Big fields, lots of competitive horses. I actually think it's a really good crop.
Yep.
I think we're going to have some really strong Oaks racing next season. So, look, she draws well on the Jewels. Natalie believes she'll have gate speed. She'll start very short. It'll make it more interesting if she doesn't draw well on the Jewels. Lots to like about this crop. And, Greg, I would suggest in my career, I might have interviewed 500 harness people at some stage. I've never interviewed anybody who wore a pair of earrings like that during a race. That was outstanding. And I would suggest the only person in harness racing who would dare try that for a Group 1 would be Natalie, because it's good to see people expressing themselves, Gregory.
She is, no question about that at all. Win 55 for her at Group 1 level in less than a decade. There you go, in New Zealand.
What's that?
At Group 1 level, she's driven 55 winners here.
Well, and let's be honest, her strike rate will never be matched again. Now, obviously, she's driving a lot of very, very good horses, but my views on her are well known. She, as a money driver, Greg, there's no driver in New Zealand I would rather have on if I was having a big bet.
$1.90 if you want to follow True Fantasy and Natalie Rasmussen around to Cambridge on Jewels Day. Montana Glory, good again. $6, a Better You, $7.50. Suntan runner-up in that, $7.50. And Cover Girl around $11. Just back to that previous race as well, you would have noticed South Coast Arden in the Messenger getting home really nicely, making its way to Addington Raceway. Spoke to Brent Mangos. He said he needs a couple of left-handed tough races, so he's going to be at Addington over the 2 premiers alongside his stablemate Strength of Honour, who takes its place this week at Addington. So a couple from the Mangos barn. Right, we need to acknowledge win number 800 for Zachary Butcher, Michael Guerin. This young driver, he's not so young these days, but he just keeps on winning. He's an outstanding talent, and he's winning here with Eagle Watch.
Had a remarkable start to his career, Zach, because he actually drove technically before he was allowed to have a licence. Went to Otaki, I think it was, or Tahuraneka, and there weren't enough drivers, and he'd been driving at the trials, and I think they rushed his licence through to get him to the races. Probably a little known fact about the guy who once jumped up onto sulky stays in a race. He's had so many weird, crazy, fun career moments so far. He's probably only been driving for 10 years. He'll end up not only in the 1,000 win club, that'll be in a couple of years, Greg, but if he wants to stick around, and he could go anywhere in the world, but he and his partner obviously own a house together, so I don't imagine he's disappearing anywhere anytime quickly. He's a certainty to end up in the 2,000 win club too. He's one of the great talents of the industry, and he's also one of the people the industry needs, Greg. Sometimes harness racing people can be a little bit shy. That's okay. A lot of farmers in the game. But Zachary's not one of those.
No, he's not. He absolutely is not. He is one heck of a talent. To Ashburton last week, Highgrove back in winning form. Nice to see that too, and pretty good afternoon of harness racing it was there on Saturday. All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll go to the next day, the Sunday. What an outstanding afternoon of harness event it was at Invercargill, Alexandra Park. We'll review that when we return. Welcome back into your box seat. Don't forget to contact us either by Twitter or by email. Let's go to Diamonds Day Invercargill. One of the big races in the southern scene is without doubt the Alabar Southern Supremacy, and this year's edition was taken out in the Alabar colours. His name Ragazzo Mac, and he dead set bolts in here. Yorokobi good in second, but it was all Nathan Williamson.
Look at him explode away. Ragazzo Mac is back on track, and he'll take the Alabar Southern Supremacy brilliantly. Won it by 5 or 6, and Nathan Williamson loved it.
Outstanding performance by the horse. I rang Nathan Williamson yesterday, Michael, and asked him what the salute was about. He said, I've been beaten in this race a couple of times, and by the way, this is the race in Southland that everyone wants to win. So that's what it meant to Nathan. He'd been beaten by in Pembroke Playboy. Tasman Bromac, I think, got beaten in it as well when they were short price favourites. So a big win for him, getting him back in form. Obviously, is one of favourites for the Derby. Things didn't pan out over the couple of weeks there at Addington Raceway, but he was simply brilliant there on Sunday.
The leg speed, the last 200, if you're watching this, go back on your MySky, watch it again. The leg speed was open class leg speed.
Yep.
I also think part of the salute, Greg, was the fact that they paid an awful lot of money for this horse, the new owners in Perth, and that could build an association with Nathan heading forward. But with money comes pressure, and you want to get a big kill for them. That was a big win. If he leads around Cambridge, I have absolutely no idea if he will, but if he leads around Cambridge, Krug won't just come rough him up and beat him. With that leg speed, if he leads around Cambridge, he can win the jewels. I have absolutely no doubt of that.
Yep, I concur with you. I think he's. I've always thought he's an exceptional talent. I was disappointed that didn't quite work out at Addington, but he was well and truly back. As I said, Yorokobi was very good. Plugs were still in, by the way, so he didn't even pull the earplugs. He was travelling that well. He's now 6 from 11. Yeah, he's just a good horse, and I'm looking forward to seeing him at Cambridge. His barrier draw, as you quite rightly point out, Michael, is going to be crucial. The other 3-year-old feature that most want to win in Southland is the Southland Oaks. Let's go and have a look at this and the concluding stages here. This is Better Talk Art. She'd extricated herself from a difficult position on the inside and stormed away from Life's the Beach. A brilliant performance for Regan Todd and Robbie Close.
Sweet Bell running on, Better Talk Hard in front, Life's a Beach, very game, but it's Better Talk Hard, and it is the Oaks to Better Talk Hard for Robbie Close.
She's putting together a great record, Michael. She's won the 4 from 11 now. I thought it was a masterstroke from Regan Todd to line her up against Pace and Pride and Co in that 3-year-old feature at Rangiora. Just toughened her up a wee bit. She gets the right sort of run in races like the Neville, the Oaks, and ultimately the Jewels. She can grab herself a Group 1 placing, I'm sure of that. Things worked out pretty well for her when Braveview Kelly came around, roughed up Life's the Beach, and that allowed her to get off the fence. But she would have been awfully hard to beat anyway. That just set it up for her quite nicely.
Yeah, well found last week on the show too, mate. You showed her as the video watch horse in the race, and she's paid good coin. She wasn't really on my radar until then. Lovely driver, Robbie Close, good fella. I'd love to see him drive more horses of this calibre. She's a good filly. Second filly's very good, Greg.
Yep.
Every time I see her, she grows on me. Ooh, she's a lovely horse. I mean, Better's Twist is really good, or Better Twist, but this filly will push her close in the Oaks, given the right circumstances. She's awfully, awfully good. Great race. It's always a great race. Really enjoyed watching it. I think it's a pretty good crop this year, Greg. I think next season's mares races are going to be really strong. Again, we go back to the last conversation though, it's going to be really hard to keep some of these horses in the country because Life's the Beach, or the winner, or Better Twist come August, September, October, November, December.
Yeah.
Still 3-year-olds in Australia.
They are. So $2 about better twist in the jewels. La Rosa, who was back winning at Addington, $6. Darling Me, $7. The Honey Queen, $7. Going to get to see her at Addington Raceway in the month of May too. And then obviously on to the jewels, and she'll have a massive part to play in the jewels this year too. So you're right. I reckon it's a deep, deep crop, and Better Talk Art's got herself a group race, so that only enhances her value. Let's go to the Diamond Creek Farm 2-year-old classic. You're So Fine got the business done for Brett Gray and Nathan Williamson. Again, a horse, Michael, that was in on the markers, was able to get itself out. That's it going past Franco Indy. And looks quite a scopy type. Definitely looks like he'll develop into a better 3-year-old, but yeah, on this performance and a big win for Brett Gray. He said this was a horse in a race that he really wanted to win.
Yeah, and look, obviously another boost for Always Be Mickey. This time last year, Greg, at the sales, nobody wanted Always Be Mickey. They hated him, and they were wrong. He's turning into a really good stallion. People want them now. Quinellas this race. Nathan had a massive day at the office. As you said, Brett Gray, you know, it's a good training performance to have these 2-year-olds who can beat the 2-year-olds from Canterbury. It's not easy to do for the horses from way down south. But yeah, the story of the race, Greg, Always Be Mickey. It's just this emergence where people didn't want them last year. And remember on the time we had the sales, we had Ken Brecken on the show. He had read a whole lot of them. And he said it's a disaster. And now, we'll talk more about it from the Weanling sales, people are really warming to him. Yes. And every trainer I talk to, Greg, and I've rung 3 of the biggest trainers in the country, have all said the same thing to me. They'll be better 3-year-olds, as you just said. So lots to like about those 2 horses. And you mentioned being on the marker pegs. Well, on Diamonds Day, Greg, it should be called Speed Day.
Yeah,
because down there they absolutely fly. Regazo Mac went like 3:17.9 or something.
Yes, he did. Set a track record. Yep.
Yeah, well, that's quicker than Copy That went.
Yeah.
So, man, they fly down there, and that's why you need to be on the markets, because if you're coming wide, they just leave you.
Yep, they certainly
do.
do.
I want to congratulate the club down there too. It's a tricky time. It's you know, we've had a weird season. I thought a cracking day's racing. I think Sunday's okay for it, because on Saturday I had to get lost on trackside too. I love the day, and I think it's really important for the people in Southland, and I think the club did a really good job on it, and I would love to see it better promoted, not inside the industry, because Harness Racing New Zealand did a really good job. I'll be honest, I'll say it. I would love to see a presenter there for trackside.
Yeah.
I think we need to support the regions. It's a big deal. Southland's a proud region, and we should send a presenter down there, and if the club has to pay for it, well, I'm sure they would.
Yeah, I fully endorse that, Michael. One of their other feature races is always the Southern Country Cups, this one with Regent Carcourt, and it was Nathan Williamson doing the business again here. Here's Pembroke Playboy. Remember, his last start performance was at Addington Raceway in the Superstars. That was in behind Self-Assured and Amazing Dream. Brilliant front-running drive by Nathan's brother Matthew on Deus X. He really lit it up the last 800 metres, Michael. Made this horse chase, and chase he did. He was brilliant, Pembroke Playboy. He's 550 in the Harness Jewels. He's possibly going to go to a free-for-all at Addington over the next couple of weeks, but Nathan just said he's going to wait and see how the horse is. Might not necessarily have to do that, might just go to a trial and then ultimately get to the Jewels, but he's a talent, this horse. We've known this for a wee while though.
Yeah, he's one of those emerging horses who's going to be a New Zealand Cup horse. I think he's getting tired-ish. I think he's getting to the end of the campaign. It's been a solid campaign up and down the island. Smart move to miss Auckland, because the way Copy That drew, he couldn't have beaten him. So it would have been a waste of time coming up here. It's a month to the Jewels is a bit of an issue for this horse, I think. He's got to travel a lot further than Copy That. If he draws inside him, yeah, maybe he can win. If he doesn't, it might be a case of driving for some place money. Love the horse, definite New Zealand Cup horse. Just get the feeling, Greg, that he's ready for a break, and like a lot of horses, he'll get to the Jewels, and the day after the Jewels, he'll exhale and go, thank God for that.
Yeah. Yeah, he certainly will. Another Williamson at it was Phil, getting this horse, Ultimate Stride, back to winning form. This was an outstanding run in front. There's Chinese Whisper having a gallop back on the inside. Spoke to Nathan about that. He said, look, I couldn't have gone round them and caught Ultimate Stride in front, so I decided to go on the inside. He just touched a marker, and that threw him off. We're likely to see him at Addington Raceway. There's a really good race, the Lone Star Sire Stakes Age Trotters Classic, that he'll probably go in. But let's concentrate on the winner here, Michael. Great to see him back in winning form. He's a $15 chance in the Jewels. He's going to be right on the cusp as to whether he makes that race, but this was the real one. This was the one that we saw challenging Bolt for Brilliance and Cracker Hill late towards the back end of last year. He's a talent when he's trotting like this.
He's a funny horse for the fact, Greg, that he's not fully developed and fully strengthened yet, but you have to drive him like he is. How Maddie drove him there is perfect for him, you know, big love you. You just got to just let him run, like they do in France, just let him run. And I think that's always going to be the best version of him, but because they weaken off sometimes, and we saw that the previous start where Phil was obviously still tinkering and he trotted a bit rough and behind. When he's in the zone, he'll be a machine. When he's not in the zone, he won't be able to use his key weapon, which is the stamina. That's always been the key to the love views, Gregory. So I think he's a very good horse, but again, I think he's a horse who, again, might be 6 months or a year away because he's playing catch-up with Bolt for Brilliance and maybe Cracker Hill and all those horses, because he's just a different breed from them and maybe slower maturing.
Yeah, and Phil said that he did tinker with his shoes, not a whole lot, but gee, whatever he did, it worked, and he was dead set, way too good for them. Let's go to Addington Raceway and have a look at Gold Chain. Continue on her winning way. This is Blair Orange doing the steering this time for trainer Bob Butt in front, dominating in the first of the two mares races. We'll talk more about them in a moment, but here's Matthew Cross bringing this mare home.
Then came over Zealous at the 100 metres. It's all Gold Chain, clear of Luminosity and Full of Hope, and a professional display. She's too good again. Gold Chain, hood still on, won it by 2, Luminosity. Third, maybe Full of Hope ahead of Time and a Bottle.
Congratulations, Robin. She's a pretty nice mare, this.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, she's doing a great job. Yeah.
Look, it was a different pathway for her towards the winner's circle. She became a mum before she became a race winner.
She sure did, yeah. She'd done a suspensory when she was 3. So we put her in foal and took a foal out of her and brought her back and given her another go.
All right. How did you come across this breed? Because looking back through the history books, it's the old Loyal Step family, the family that the Kerslakes had a bit of success with.
Yeah, we bought the mother and she broke her tail when she was getting broken in, and she didn't sort of go all that good, so we put her in foal pretty quickly.
She's now won 6 races, and this race, and of course Addington's race next Friday night for fillies and mares only, great concept.
It is great. It's good to see the fillies and mares getting something.
She's doing a good job, isn't she? She's marching her way through the grades. How far do you think she might be able to get?
Well, I don't know. She's a lovely gated trotter, so I'm hoping she'll go a bit further up. But we might put her in foal next year and race her for a wee while early in the season, and then let her become a mother.
Yep. Well, Bob's placed her beautifully so far. You and Jackie are having a bit of fun with her. It's nice to have you back here winning races at Addington, a place you've had great success at.
Yeah, it is great to be back, yeah. But it's good fun winning anywhere.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, RD. Plugs were still in as well. Michael, I just want to touch on that mare's race, 9 horses, 8 for this week for 20,000. You often bring up on the show, we need more fillies and mares races. We need to keep these horses in the country. Where are they? Why are people not lining up in these races? Even a maiden race at Addington this week, $12,000, 10 starters. I mean, what more do you want?
I think there's some pretty good mares in that mares trotting race. So if you were sort of in that 70 to 50 bracket, I could see how you might.
But it was a handicap last week.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm a great believer that if you're going to ask for things as trainers, you can't ask for them and then say, I don't have the right horse. We can't line up horses every week thinking they're going to win all the time, because they're not going to win all the time. Only one of them's going to win. If there's a 10-horse field, that means 90% of them lose. But there's nothing wrong with going around and finishing second, third or fourth. So I agree, they should support these races, trainers, if they want them to happen. There's a lot of people watching this show sitting there right now, and they've got a mare in the barn and they decide not to put it in. And that's fine. You've got to go where you think your horse is right. But you also don't get to complain then about the lack of those type of races. Good horse this. Good to see Robin. Haven't seen Robin for a long time. Great to see him on television, mate. Well done. Good to see him smiling away, as usual. They've got a pretty good horse here, and one of those great resilient stories. Horse breaks its tail when it's young. A lot of people, Greg, move it on. These days it'll probably end up on Gavel House.
Yep.
But they put it in foal, brought it back into work. That would have been an awfully long process.
Yep.
And they're getting some good payback. She's a pretty good horse. I'm a little bit disappointed to hear they're going to put her back in foal next year. I wouldn't mind see her sticking around at open class.
Well, the way she's going.
Well, but in saying that though, Greg, once she gets to open class, there's Sunday Sun just sitting outside her, which probably wouldn't be a lot of fun.
No, not a whole lot of fun at all. Some sad news in harness racing. Last month we lost the first lady trainer, of course, to train a New Zealand Cup winner in Lorraine Nolan. Yule Star was the name of the horse. Here he is in front, Big Yuley with Tony Francis Shaw. He was a monster, Michael. Of course, he won a Hunter Cup, he won an Inter-Dominion, he went to the States, he won close to $2 million, but Lorraine and Ron did such a great job with him. I was sad to hear of that. She certainly brought a bit of class, a bit of glamour around the year 2000, which was the year Yules won the Cup, and yeah, I was sad to hear of her passing.
Yeah, so was I. She was a nice lady, Lorraine, and
that's her with the hat on there. Yeah,
and you would say a gentle lady. She was a lady who, you know, dressed like the Queen Mother when she was at the races, and her and Ron, it almost feels like a different era, Greg. You know, these days it's hard to believe a mum and a grandmum from Taranaki would rock up with the best horse in Australasia. So I hope we see more of it. There's been some amazing stories, and the New Zealand Cup is the place they tend to come out the most. But I hope there's more of those stories in the past, and I think Lorraine's and Ron's family have so much to be proud of, because that story will never go away. The All Stars, one of the great yarns of New Zealand history. So to the family, our condolences.
Yeah, certainly. We also lost Peter Binney, who was a big part of the Standardbred Breeders, setting that up. So sad to hear of his passing. And Lynn Bromley, who's the mother of Richard Bromley. Lynn owned quite a few horses that John and Richard trained, so our thoughts are with the Bromley family at this time as well. New Zealand Bloodstock Weanling sale. It was recently conducted on Monday. Michael Guerin, our intrepid reporter, went out and caught up all things around the sale. A very successful one once again, and he kicks the interviews off by talking with James Jennings.
Well, James, you'd have to be satisfied with that.
Yeah, great result. You know, $1.25 million turnover, 11.2 average off a 90% clearance rate. Couldn't be happier, really.
And strong overseas interest, some via the website. So the tools that were set up last year for COVID working well.
Yeah, we've seen that with the online bidding, but it was also good to have live sale again and have a number of Australian buyers who made the trip across the Tasman using the Tasman bubble, and I think that added a lot of strength to the buying bench.
The King is still the King, Bidder's Delight, topping the sale of $36,000. Last lot of the day. Where would we be without him?
Oh, he is. You know, he's champion 4 countries this season, so you know he's peerless. And 6 horses selling for over 30,000. I think that just shows you there's good depth to the market. Medium of 8.5. I think it might have been a tough day for the pinhookers, though. To be fair.
Talk about the pinhooking. Had you had much interest from people who were saying, okay, I want to come here and I want to buy a horse and then come back next February?
Yeah, it's exactly. You know, we saw good strength in the yearling sales this year, and everyone was very pleased with the result. And that sort of becomes its own engine. So I think that's why we saw some depth and strength in the Weanling sale, because the pinhookers were active. And I think that they found it was a tough day because there was a lot of competition for good horses.
For the harness racing side of the business here at New Zealand Bloodstock, what's next for them? Do we have any more sales between now and the big one, the yearling sales next February?
No, apart from our online sales, which we do through Gavel House, there's no further plans for any major sales here leading up to the yearling sales. But you've got to remember, we're in May now. We'll be calling for entries for the yearling sales next month. So it's actually already upon us.
Talking about Gavel House, there's a lot of people there who can find the market for their standard-bred horses. How's the general interest been in the bi-weekly Gavel House sales?
going bi-weekly, I think, has made all the difference, especially with the raced horses and your broodmares. It just gives our clients a wonderful opportunity to trade those horses when they want to, and going to twice a month has made all the difference.
What did you make of the sales?
I thought it was a really strong sale. The nice horses sold really well. There was a great clearance rate, and yeah, it's just really pleasing how well the sale went and how the sale's grown over the years. The horses are presented really well, and they sell accordingly. And it was great that there was some Australian interest here as well, but no, a really good sale with a great clearance rate.
No shock in the fact that the art majors sold well. They always sell well, but you must be encouraged by the money for the Always Be Mickeys and for the Vincents.
Absolutely. Like, we had people coming here that were specifically looking for the Mickeys, which is a nice feeling when you've got a new sire that people recognise he's doing a good job, and they specifically come to find them there. So that's really good, and they sold accordingly. And Art Majors just done such a wonderful job over a long time, and it was nice to see them sell well. And the other thing I was pleased with was the first few foals here by Ultimate Machete. They sold well, and it was nice that Barry Purdon bought one, and it was really nice that Phil and Glennis Kennard bought one, who used to own Machete. So that was a nice part of the day.
They seemed to have inherited Dad's shoulder, nice shouldered type of horses.
A couple of them in particular had a lot of Better's Delight in them. Machete's a big strong horse, but a couple of them in particular, they did have a lot of their granddad in them, Better's Delight. So they sold well, and it's encouraging. And half the battle with those new stallions is to get them into the good stables, because that's where the good horses come out of.
Always Be Mickey at the yearling sales last year was a disappointment. Not the stock, but the prices. The worm is most definitely turning there.
Oh yeah, very true. And like in 2020, they were a bit quiet in the market, but then since then he's been the leading first season sire in North America, and he's had 2-year-olds racing in New Zealand. And off how the 2-year-olds were looking in New Zealand and what they did in North America, they sold pretty well in 2021 round of yearling sales. And this year was a further growth in that. Now that he's had group performers in New Zealand and Australia, they are perceived by the big owners, big buyers, that they're the type of horses they want.
One of the great things about Art Major is he leaves those upstanding horses who stand quite proud. He's passed it on to Vincent. I don't think I've seen a bunch of Weanlings who stand up so straight, have those great necks on them, as Vincent leaves.
He does, and like Vincent himself's a cracking looking horse. Like, he's just we market him as the equine masterpiece because he's just such a beautifully put together horse and such an attractive horse. And he leaves a lot of that in his progeny. They have sharp heads and they have good bodies and they're really fluent walkers. And people like them, trainers like them. They've broken in well. He's a really well-regarded racehorse, and they sold pretty well here today as well. And a couple of them, to be fair, really outsold their Dams family just on type, which is really encouraging for Vincent.
Happy man?
Oh, had to be, wouldn't you? Yeah, we've cleared over 90%, and although they're not huge numbers, but everyone's. They've got homes, most of them, and we're working on the last. And it was a good sale, good clearance rate, really good clearance rate overall. And we're happy with it. Online bidding worked quite well during the day, which was good to see. So the Australians were busy as well, and overall, you'd have to be happy.
I thought your reserves very realistic. You weren't putting reserves on horses actually more than the service fee of the stallion.
Oh, some of the horses, obviously, we had overs and others unders. For us, it's what happens at the end of the day, how many we've got left, and so it's an overall game for us. And sometimes we met the market, so we had a reserve, and then we knew that there was only 1 or 2 people on it, and we put it on the market. So, and historically, that's what we've always done. We've tried to meet the market, so we were happy.
The King was strong again, Better's Delight. I think people realise that they might as well buy one now because they're not going to be any cheaper come February.
No, that's quite true, and there's always that question mark. He's becoming a bit of an old boy now, and whether he's allowed to hop on the plane, we'll just have to wait and see. But at this stage, he's in great form. I hear from America, and so he is coming, and hopefully that will be the same. But he's getting to the stage where, this year's a bonus, and maybe next year will be a bigger bonus if it ever happened. And so we just. Yeah, he's there at the moment.
Would he be looking at a restricted book for next breeding season?
Oh, look, well, Mick, that's been put upon us, hasn't it? With the scheming, conniving for across the ditch. But in New Zealand, he seems to be at the price we don't really have to restrict him. We've got, he would, and his fertility was normal last year. So those are all the things that depend on it. But so I would say that he'll serve, 130, 150 in both countries would be nice. Just wait and see.
So a good sale, Michael. Obviously the key to it, those online purchases, 6 horses over 30,000. I see Bruce Negus bought 10 at the Weanling sale, which is quite a remarkable number for him, but all in all very successful.
Yeah, they're very different things, Weanling sales from yearling sales. Totally different feel to the day. And when you look at them, Greg, for someone who's not a horse person, they look like big furry dogs. Like literally, some of these things are 6 months old. They're so small compared to racehorses that you feel like patting them. And they're so furry and they've got no idea what's going on. The staff with these horses did wonderful jobs. But you've also got to take it for what it is, and that is that they're being sold to turn them over, to create equity for the studs, but also some of the studs don't have the time and room to prepare them as yearlings. So you can't go, well, that's a ridiculous sum of money. They only got 10,000 for that horse, because you've only had to look after it for 6 months, and to get it to the yearling sales, you might need to pay an extra 8 or an extra 10. I thought there was good money for horses that people wanted, Better's Delights. There was a bit of love for the Always Be Mickeys. I thought there was some nice money there. The Vincents were outstanding looking horses, very proud, stand-up, tall type horses, so they're going to make some strapping horses in the future. I think the sale served its purpose, Greg. There was virtually nobody there. But that's okay, because it's not the yearling sales, it's not a social occasion. People aren't going to look at the pretty horses. As I said, they look like big dogs. But for a guy like Bruce Negus, it gives you the chance to go there and buy 10 horses, and if you've got a farm, you can put them on the farm, Greg, and in a year's time, you've bought a bargain, because the $10,000 horse there on Monday, and I was lucky enough to be there obviously, would be $25,000 at the yearling sales. So if you've got land, it's a good investment. Hopefully after that they turn out to be some good enough horses.
Yep, that is for sure. Thanks for getting out there and doing those interviews for us. Next week on the show, we'll have an update from Gary Woodham, particularly around the new Harness Race New Zealand Code of Conduct and all things happening out of HRNZ. Short break for us. When we come back, we'll have a look and see where you can go harness racing this weekend, plus review a couple of races out of Australia. Welcome back into your box seat in the home straight. Let's have a look at our map in terms of harness racing this weekend. We start off with the Waikato Bay of Plenty. Meeting 7, it'll be 8 races there, 5:20 on Thursday night as they continue their countdown to the IRT Harness Duels. Alexandra Park, 9 races there, 5:46 will be the start time. Actually, they've got 10. I think they go about 5:20. 10 races at Addington Raceway, including the Heather Williams Memorial, that Fillies and Mares Trot, $20,000 on offer there, with Invercargill on Saturday, 12:10, the 10 races from that venue, and Rangiora on Sunday, 12:05, 10 races out of Rangiora. Speaking of the harness action, let's go to Addington Raceway. I wanted to have a look at race number 2. I think Cheezel will be very hard to beat in this. Let's have a look at her most recent performance. That's Plutonium Lady in front. She starts again and will be pretty hard to beat on her own court. She goes around in race number 6, but that's Cheezel in the Lone Star colours, charging into 3rd place, Belmont Major into 2nd. On that performance, you'd think that she'd be extremely tough to beat, even from the outside of the gate. Folklore's in good form. All American Lover was excellent last time. David Butcher is coming down to drive her again before he gets back to Alexandra Park to drive American Dealer, so pretty keen on it. Let's have a look at race number 10, Darlagiri. That's Darlagiri last in the black hat there of Robbie Holmes. Ducks to the inside, gets held up here. Gee, I thought this was a performance of a horse that can win its next start. Have a look at the last 100 metres here, outside second row this week. It's in a winnable race though, and I reckon Darlagiri, with any luck in running, can just about get the business done. Johnny Cox will be taking the the reins there. Alexandra Park race alongside Addington. And Michael, one that you found for us a couple of weeks ago in Louis the Punter. Let's roll the tape of him winning back-to-back races. He didn't get there by much this time, but he'll be very competitive come Friday night too.
Yeah, crucially developed gate speed too. Was good off the gate 2 weeks ago, even better off the gate last week. Greg, no reason to think he's not a 5-win horse. If he can jump off the gate, get across them and lead. Second horse here is my horse to follow for the entire week. Blitz and Buy has a tricky draw this week, but it is at least a 5-win horse. Look out for it, Blitz and Buy. Put it in your imaginary black book, because absolutely nobody I know has a black book.
Takes its place in race number 3. Michael, let's go across the Tasman, get you to take us through these with Garrards. We mentioned last week you won't be up to watch the WA Derby, or you might have been. Let's roll with these. And the winning performance here of Mighty Ronaldo, who upset them again, much like he did latter part of last year.
Well, as they often do in WA, they burned up. They got really serious in the middle stages, and the patient drive just got the job done. So, look, well done to Justin Prentice. Pretty nice horse by Ultra Cristiano, who, of course, raced over here and was doing an all right job in WA. But, yeah, Mighty Ronaldo getting home after a frenetic WA derby. Every year in WA, they proclaim another 3-year-old to be the best one, and they've got beat there.
They certainly did. Let's go to Expensive Ego, rather. Well, he is the best one, Michael.
He's a good horse. This is the 4-year-old Pacing Gold out of Melton, just led, and he bolted. And when he leads, he's going to be very hard to beat in any type of race. He ran second in the Miracle Mile. He's a horse who could potentially go close to winning the Inter-Dominion this year, of course. We've heard last week that Lochinvar Art will be out of the Inter-Dominion. It's going to be around New South Wales, going to 3 tracks, then a final at Menangle. He'll cop that better than most, Greg. Good horse. The other final there won by Michelle Lee Mack for the McDowells, who are huge purchasers of horses out of New Zealand. Really good people, Dean and Kerry and Colin. This is their mare winning at 25 to 1. Biggest win of their career. And I mean, they put a stack of money into harness racing, and they absolutely loved it. Kerry was in tears. Good story. So Expensive Ego expected. Michelle Lee Mack not so much. They were your harness highlights from Australia. Spankum was on the plane to Australia yesterday. Greg, he'll join Kylie Rasmussen and Darren Weeks. Soon to be joined by Amazing Dream. Copy that after the Jewels, all those type of horses. Greg, we have quite a saucy winter coming up in Brisbane.
Yeah, we certainly do. Spellbound was winning at Melton once again, and Ultra Orlando won too. Let's have a look at the hits and misses with Matthew Peden and the team from the bookmaker's desk. Gold Chain, 4,000 at 260. Well played there. Support for Five Wise Men. Sunday Sun, copy that. And Pembroke Playboys. So some good results there. A little bit went a begging with the likes of Last Tango in Heaven. That was in the second to last race. And of course the Honey Queen getting beaten. Ultra Wise Guy. Big support, did get home and beat Last Tango in Heaven in those last couple of strides, Michael. A couple of decent plays there. Now a $26 chance in the harness jewels. If you followed us last week, the Regazzo Mac and Mr. Ibiza double, I think it paid about $3.40, somewhere around about that. But with Door Contracting, Michael, see if we can continue this run for you. Where are you heading this week?
Well, he like the first at Cambridge on Thursday night. Mufasa Metro coming at a good 3-year-old trots. Hasn't been left-handed. They're taking it here to get ready for the lead-up race and then the Jewels. Has blazing gate speed. Has been trotting home in 57 Greg against horses who have been trotting home in a minute. If it leads and produces its best, it'll win the first at Cambridge.
Well, I can say exactly the same for Toro Stride in race number 1 at Rangiora. This is the race that Oscar Bonavina might have gone through and snuck its way through to the Jewels as well. Had a gallop last time, spoke to Phil Williamson about that. He said, look, it was very unusual, hadn't done that in any of its trials. He expects it to win, so I'm happy to go with that. Bit of a risk, 2-year-old trotter, but that'll do me. Michael, been a busy old show, plenty of information there. Thanks so much for your time as always.
Hey, to everybody in the harness racing world, hope you back a winner this week. To those who purchased at the Weanling sales, good luck with the horses.
Yeah, and a big thank you once again to our stable of sponsors. Michael and I will see you in 7 days' time.